This is Scott Becker with the Becker Private Equity and Business Podcast. The podcast, I think, is ranked number 2 in the United States in Apple Business News today. So thank you all for listening to the podcast. These are 15 stories that we're following today. It's Wednesday. First, the markets point up today after a solid day in the markets yesterday. Second, Netflix is really surging today after knocking out of the park in terms of subscriber growth. They had about 20 million subscribers. At some point, I assume the success of these different streaming services will impact Comcast as well. Waiting to see that happen as I get my Comcast bill every month and hate it, but we'll see how that goes. Third, President Trump announced a massive partnership, sort of a public-private partnership with Oracle and a few other companies to invest in AI, $500 billion. We'll see how this goes. The thing I'll tell you, involves government spending. If you disliked government spending on the left and deficit spending, then you're better dislike it on the right as well. It'll be interesting to see what public funds are part of this. Oracle, one of the main leaders in this effort, soared on the announcement. Fourth, limited partners, if I'm any indication of it, are starting to see droves of capital calls as PE and VC funds commit to investments and close investments. Fifth, one of the things we try and remember is that when one of our startup investments turns to a zero, as one of mine did this week, that you need to remember that life goes on after the living is gone. That's an old famous song, onward and upward. It's why we focus on a core and explore approach to investing and diversification. The core is index funds and treasuries. Then we've got some stuff in these private equity and venture capital investments. Sixth, Walgreens Boots Alliance dropped 9-point-something% yesterday on news of a federal opioids investigation. Walgreens sees this like it needs a hole in the head. Seventh, iPhone sales in China dropped 18% in December. That's the opposite of a December to remember the old Lexus ad. Eighth, Tempest AI jumped 35% yesterday. It was also announced that Nancy Pelosi has a stake in Tempest. Now, the founder of Tempest AI is the richest guy in the state of Illinois, and by far the richest and most successful in the town that we live in Illinois. Since Ken Griffin left to Florida, he's really the richest in Illinois. Ninth, Sweet Green dropped 9% yesterday, assuming not as many people are eating salads as they should be, even though it's really still close to the start of the year. 10th, Astera Labs, which is one of the handful of companies that we hold directly, dropped 6.16% yesterday, but alas, it's still way up since we took the investment in it. 11th, when people ask for one's products for free, I'm reminded of the old adage, nobody writes for free. And two other thoughts as well. First, if you're a software company doing pilots of products and so forth, at some point you got to make sure customers are paying for those pilots and those products. Second, if you're in a business and you don't have customers, at some point you have what we call a hobby, not a business. 12th, our next two webinars, one on investing in early stage companies and AI use cases with Venkat Mokurla is at capacity and sold out. The same with our healthcare deal trends webinar, that's on February 6th. Again, if interested in business to business webinars, feel free to reach Scott Becker. 13, the Levin Economic Fear Index is showing increased concerns and is at a 5.2. 14th, the Becker Private Equity and Business Podcast ranked number 1 yesterday in the Apple Business News charts. We love to see that. 15, 5 stocks to buy and hold for Investors Business Daily, Meta Platforms, Spotify, ServiceNow, Goldman Sachs, Internet Brokers. I generally don't act on these lists, but I do find them fascinating to look at. Goldman Sachs is rocking and rolling again. Zuckerberg is a genius, whether you like him or not. Thank you for listening to the Becker Private Equity and Business Podcast.